Hey, Pascal here, nice to see you again. It's actually evening already, but still enough time to talk about drones. So today we will talk about how to fly drones close to objects in the safest way possible. So I know a lot of you guys fly their drones mostly high up in the air, and of course when you're starting out it's safe because high up in the air there are less objects, or usually no objects where you can fly into. But to get the really great shots you want to fly a bit lower to the ground and close to objects, because it's, especially when you fly backwards, it's really nice how all the objects come in the frame, and it's just a nice effect. And because the viewer doesn't know what's coming, and then whoosh, 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 all the objects coming in there, and that's cool. So, but of course the problem with those shots is it's a bit more dangerous, especially for your drone, because, well, you don't want to crash if you have maybe 1,000 or 2,000 bucks in the air, right? So we need to make sure that we lower the risk of crashing them. So the first and probably the most important thing is that you stand perfectly behind your drone, so that the drone is flying in one line away from you, and you can see it perfectly how close it is to the object, if it goes a bit to the left and right or up and down, because then you can compensate perfectly for that, and also pretty fast, and you see everything perfectly. So that's how I do it. When you see some shots where the drone is flying close to objects, I'm usually perfectly behind the drone. It doesn't necessarily mean that the drone is close to me. Sometimes it is 50 or 100 meters away, but I'm in one line with the drone, so I can see it perfect. I'm at the beach now, and I actually wanted to fly my drone close to some stuff here, but the sun is already down. It doesn't do anything anymore. But yeah, let's talk about the next topic, and that is that you sometimes need some special settings on your drone, and that depends a bit on the situation. So for example, when you just fly, let's say, in the middle of two trees, then it's pretty easy. You don't need to set anything up, especially maybe if the trees are a bit too close. You probably want to turn your sensors off, because otherwise the drone will stop, of course. Closer it gets, more you have to do it. But there's also another case. For example, I had it on Bali when I was flying through this hut on the rice fields there. That was a very nice shot. I will blend it in here. And one time the drone started shaking a bit in the height, and then of course because of the wind and so on, it also went a bit to the right, and then had a small crash. And that was because the bottom sensors, vision positioning system, saw that there is a change in the height. So first the drone was over the rice field, and then there was the ground of the hut, and it was flying over that. So it seems like the vision positioning system doesn't really like that, and that's why it started shaking in the hay. So it adjusted its height automatically a little bit, which is usually good, because when you fly up a hill, for example, then it prevents crashing into the hill, and you can actually fly behind someone else. Oh, this noise here, this is really... Oh, okay, this guy that wants to sell something, let's go a bit farther away from that. So in those situations, when you have a shift in your ground level, then you probably want to turn off your bottom sensor. So you do that when you go to the sensors menu, and then you go to advanced settings, and there you can turn off the vision positioning completely. When you do it, really make sure that you have GPS all the time, because otherwise you're in eddy mode, and it's very hard to control it, especially if you never flew a drone that doesn't have GPS or any other positioning system, because in that case the drone starts shaking and it's really hard to control. So definitely make sure that you have GPS all the time. That was actually the reason why I crashed my drone yesterday. It was on a condition where I didn't have any GPS anymore, and instead of landing it directly, I tried to still get the shot. I wanted to a bit too much, so I crashed it, but not a big crash at the end, so it's working again. Just need to buy some new props, no problem. Actually not yesterday, but the day before. So definitely check that you definitely have GPS when you need to turn off your vision positioning system. And I mean, the next is actually quite obvious. You have to make sure that you fly through your object, don't fly too close, always stay a bit in the middle if you have like 2 trees or a window or something like that. It was pretty obvious. And one little tip that I could give you here, for example, is when you want to fly over something. Let's say you want to fly very close over a roof, and it's actually quite easy to do. So like mentioned before, you stand behind your drone, and then you just have to make sure that between the roof and the drone, or whatever object it is under your drone, that there's a space visible, because when there's always a space visible, then you cannot crash into that. So for example, if the roof is higher than you start in a way that you see there's a space between the drone and the roof. And of course, if you would just fly backwards now and you wouldn't press up anymore, then it would fly into the roof of the house. And you of course need to press up, and you need to press up in a way so that you constantly see this space between it, and that the space stays around the same size, because then you know you fly perfect. And of course, to the left and right, it's much harder to adjust, and that's also a reason why you should stay behind your drone. Of course, then there are also those very cool pullback shots where your drone first films you and then it flies backwards from you. And I mean, all the rules that I said before count for that type of shots too. But there's this problem that when you fly backwards, you have to press to the left to fly right, and you have to press right to fly to the left. And so of course it's a lot more likely that you cause a crash under these conditions. So some drones allow you to change the settings of the controller so that you reverse it, and then it's a bit easier to do so. But it's usually a lot harder. That's why you don't see it so much in my videos, because usually, I mean, it looks nice, but come on, people look at a few seconds on Instagram and then they don't watch it never again. So I would say it's not worth the risk really to do it. If you, let's say you have a bit more money to spend and so on, and you could do that a bit more. But for me, I would say in most cases it's just not worth the risk. So that's why I don't do it so much. And I would advise you, at least if you don't have the money to buy a new drone, then don't do it. Yeah, but apart from that, all the same rules. Just make sure that you learn before to fly backwards without having objects close to your drone, because that's where it's really getting more risky. And that's it already for today. I really hope I could help you a little bit when you want to start flying close to objects. So I would say when you start out, really make sure that you're a bit closer to your drone, at least in the beginning. I would say less than 50 meters in the very beginning, maybe even less than 30, because then you see everything much better, you can react better, and it's a lot safer both for your drone and for the environment. But usually when you're far away from people and from traffic, then there's not a big risk. I will spend a few more minutes at the beach here right now. The sky looks still great here, you can probably see it. I love the afterglow, it's great. And tomorrow we will also spend a day on the beach here. So tomorrow I will teach you a bit on how to get nice beach shots, especially with your girlfriend or whoever you go with. So definitely make sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications button to don't miss out the next video. I'm on a 30-day challenge right now, so I publish 1 video per day over 30 days. So there's actually a lot you can learn. So I hope to see you in the next video.